got to get comfy here. So, I want to talk a little bit more about my experience with disability and basically the workman's comp part of it. Because when I hurt myself on the job the first time, I went through the whole workman's comp thing, went through the doctors and the court and the settlement, and that was what determined why I didn't want to do it again. So, just a little bit about that. I worked in a restaurant that had a walk in cooler that had a step down, but instead of the step down, it had a ramp. And my boss, whom I'd told multiple times to put something on that ramp because it was slippery, ignored me. So, anyway, one night I'm doing closing and I'm taking the salad bar stuff and going to put it down into the walk in cooler, and I slipped and fell flat on my rear end. Sounds kind of funny. Bloop, down. And I didn't think too much of it. I wasn't really in pain at the moment, but I just had this funny hollow feeling in my back. I mean, it just was weird. So I reported it, and then I went home, and by the next day I could barely move, and I was in agony, and that's when it all started. And it turned out to be a pretty rotten injury for me, at least, because all of the scans showed nothing. They do these scans and they say, well, it doesn't show anything. Well, I don't care what it shows, I'm in pain. So we finally go through the whole system and end up, I have to see this doctor for workman's comp. One of the most crooked doctors I've ever had to deal with, if you ask me anyway. So I wasn't allowed to have anyone in the room with me. And they do these measurements where they have you bend backwards and bend forwards, and he actually, when he asked me to bend backwards, pulled me back to take his measurement. Then he pushed me forward. The saving grace, because again there was no witness in there, was that he was audio recording that visit. So when I went and reported it to my attorney what had happened, I mean, I left that office. I was hysterical. I was a mess. I couldn't hardly move. I was in even more pain than before. And we went right to the attorney's office and we reported it. And that was probably one of the things that kind of sped up my case, because that doctor lost his privileges at that hospital. That recording proved what happened, because when he did those things, I said, "You're hurting me, stop pulling me, stop pushing me." So, anyway, I did get a 40% disability. That was what it was determined, that my back was 40% disabled. I got a settlement, and then we went on our merry way. And at the time, we did not need another income. We used my settlement to put a down payment on a house, and we're tooling right along pretty happily. Now, eventually, I did need to get another job, and that's where the second injury comes in. But the experience of dealing with fighting workman's comp to prove that you have an injury is like walking through the fiery pits of hell. It is not something that I would ever go through again. And that is why I did not go through it again when I got my traumatic brain injury. I didn't actually think that I was going to be as injured as I am. You don't really think that when you get hurt on the job, especially when it's not something that's, oozing or. And what happened was, with that one, was I just got grabbed by the neck by a very big man and shaken like a rag doll. You don't think much about that until you have to think much about that. But that's another story. But anyway, that is my walk through workman's comp in order to get any kind of disability. And I don't know whether that makes a difference or not, but that was just my story. Hang on to your sanity and have a lovely day. I'm off to argue with maggots on local Trump state media.